Good afternoon. This is Norman Campbell. I'll be your facilitator today. We're here at the New Hope Missionary Baptist Church, 3005 East Ellicott Street, Tampa, Florida, 33610. Let's open with a word of prayer. We're still studying the introduction of Jesus as the Christ. We're looking at the evolution of the disciples of John the Baptist decreasing and the disciples of Jesus increasing. The message of Jesus will be to prevent us from falling into sin. We're in a similar time now with this airborne plague of coronavirus. We need to do what we can to prevent its spread. Let us pray for the divine guidance to protect ourselves from this virus. Help us to be mindful of the virus of hate, discord, and disunity. Let us petition the Lord for his providence and protection. Lord, teach us to be an example for others as we go about our daily lives. Help us to be a symbol of your love and forgiveness in these times of anxiety and confusion. Shield us from hurt, harm, and danger as we seek the facial coverings to protect us from the virus. Help us to spread the joy of your love during this time of peace, comfort, and joy. Thank you in advance for these protections. Amen. Our lesson today, Jesus calls Philip and Nathanael. This is from John 1:43 through 51. The related scriptures are Genesis 28:10 through 15, Luke 2:8 through 14, and Matthew 3:16 through 17. Our golden text. Verily, verily, I say unto you, hereafter ye shall see heaven open, and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. John 1:51. Our aim today is to study how Jesus called and related to his disciples, to remember why we should follow Jesus and learn how to better serve him during the context of discipleship, and to identify the characteristics that made Jesus' disciples so effective, and to truthfully integrate these principles into our own lives. The background of today's lesson is we continue our study in the year 26 AD, some 1994 years ago. Our lesson today focuses on how Jesus went about choosing his disciples, the people he would entrust to carry and spread his message. We have previously looked at how the first 4 disciples were brought into the fold. Andrew, a fisherman, along with John, the writer of the gospel, witnessed the baptism of Jesus by John the Baptist and saw the Spirit of God descending as a dove. Andrew immediately went to get his brother Simon, also known as Peter, to tell him the promised Messiah had come. Andrew immediately went to get his brother and bring him to Jesus. When Jesus saw Simon, immediately he identified Simon as Peter, the son of Jonah, Simon Bar-Jonah. Bar-Jonah means the son of Jonah. Jesus also changed Peter's name to Cephas. The Greek word for this is Petra, or stone or rock. Peter has now been predetermined to be the rock upon which the church would be built. Jesus in Matthew 4:18 sees Peter and Andrew along with their father Jonah fishing. Jesus says, "Follow me. I will make you fishers of men." They, Peter and Andrew, immediately left their work and their father to follow Jesus. In Luke 5:1 through 11, we see Peter and Andrew fishing on Lake Gennesaret. This is also called the Sea of Galilee. They had been fishing all night, but came up empty-handed. Jesus instructed them to go back into the lake and let down their nets. They advised that they had fished all night and had caught nothing, but at Jesus' direction, they would go back out. They caught so many fish that their nets began to break. Their ship also began to take on water, and they called their brethren to assist with the catch. These other fishermen were James and John, the sons of Zebedee. When they brought the catch to land, they each forsook fishing. Jesus said to them, "Fear not, henceforth ye shall catch men. Matthew 4:19 and Mark 1:7. Our lesson outline today has two parts. The first, more disciples for John. That's John 1:43 through 46. And the second is greater understanding, John 1:47 through 45. So let's look at the text of the lesson today. The text starts, John 1:43. The day following, Jesus would go up into Galilee and findeth Philip, and saith unto him, Follow me. Verse 44. Now Philip was of Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip findeth Nathanael, and saith unto him, We have found him, of whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. And Nathanael said unto him, Can there any good thing come out of Nazareth? Peter saith unto him, Come and see. All right, so we look at these verses one by one as we go through. The first day, the day following, Jesus would go forth into Galilee and findeth Philip, and saith unto him, Follow me. Next, Philip was of Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. In this case, Jesus went looking for disciples. Would he look for you? Andrew previously brought his brother Peter to see Jesus. Who have you brought to see Jesus? Has Jesus called you? If he did, how would you respond? Now, the city they're talking about is Bethsaida. Bethsaida means the house of fishing. It is also located in what's called a desert place. That is, it was a place of no cultivated land that was used for grazing. To bring this into further context, this is also where Jesus later fed the thousands. This was also the more miraculous an event because there were no local markets for them to purchase food for the thousands coming to see Jesus. In verses 45 and 46, 45 says, Philip findeth Nathanael and said, We have found him, of whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. And Nathanael said unto him, Can any good thing come out of Nazareth? Philip saith unto him, Come and see. There's a couple things here. Number one, when Philip says, We have found him, who of Moses and the law and the prophets did write, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph, a number of issues come to mind for Nathanael. First of all, Jesus, according to the prophecy, was to be coming from Bethlehem, not Nazareth. Secondly, Nathanael was familiar with the oral traditions of the Jewish law, which indicated he knew that the Messiah was coming. The Messiah was to be a king and a priest. When Philip says he is Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph, it creates confusion. Number one, Joseph was not a priest. And number two, Nazareth was not Bethlehem. So Nathanael says unto him, Can there be any good thing come out of Nazareth? Philip said unto him, Come and see. We are guilty of this same kind of problem today. We look at where people come from to determine what their value is. Nazareth was a place, it's the largest city, it's the Arab capital of Israel. It's in the northern district of Israel. It was also a majority population of Muslims. Muslims are the descendants of Ishmael and the children of Israel, who is Jacob, and the children of Ishmael, who was a son of Abraham, have always been in conflict since the child Ishmael was kicked out of the home by his mother. So the descendants of Isaac and the descendants of Ishmael do not get along from that historical point. So when Philip says that nothing good can come out of Nazareth, he's bringing to mind what he knows of the city. That if it has a majority population of the descendants of Ishmael, it can't be good for the children of Israel and Isaac, and therefore it may not be Jesus. So Philip says, well, come and see. Now, we do this same thing. One of the people told me, said, well, if you got ready to get on an airline and the pilot came to get on the flight and the pilot was dressed in jeans and a sweatshirt, you would probably ask the flight attendant to allow you to get on a different plane. It didn't look like the pilot was trained. Now, he could have been the best trained pilot in the world, but he didn't look the part. On the other hand, you could have a pilot show up with all his medallions and all his stripes, and you're quite comfortable. It could be the worst pilot in the world, but the look is what gets us. So we don't look at the inside of people. We look at the outside. There's a couple things that we need to make sure we talk about. Bethlehem was prophesied to be the town from which the Messiah came. The root of the word Nazareth comes from Neser, N-E-S-E-R, which means sprout, or Netzer, N-E-T-Z-E-R, which means branch or to bear fruit. If you refer back to Isaiah 11:1, it says, and there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow from its roots. So even though Nathanael was presented with information that he would have remembered from the scriptures, he was not referring to Nazareth as a place that would bear fruit. We go on to our second section, greater understanding, John 1:47 through 51. The assessment of Nathanael as recorded in John 1:47. 47, and Jesus saw Nathanael coming to him, and saith unto him, behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom is no guile. Now, in this particular instance, Jesus was able to assess the true character of Nathanael prior to Nathanael meeting Jesus. Jesus knew Nathanael, but Nathanael did not know that this was the Jesus for whom he was waiting. Guile means deviousness, cunning, deceit, or crafty. If you recall, in last week's lesson, 2 weeks ago, Jesus indicated that he knew who Peter was before Peter arrived. He said, you are the son of John. Peter was not aware that he had ever been in Jesus' presence, so when Jesus identified him that way, he was startled. In this case, Nathanael is confused. He knows he has never, to his knowledge, been in Jesus' presence. So how can Jesus say to him, first of all, he's an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no guile? Responses from Nathanael, John 1:48 through 49. Nathanael saith unto him, whence knowest thou me? Jesus answered and said unto him, before that Philip called thee, when thou wast under the fig tree, I saw thee. Nathanael answered and said unto him, Rabbi, thou art the Son of God, thou art the King of Israel. Now, Nathanael knew that he was alone under the fig tree before he was called by Philip. And so Jesus had no way to know who he was or anything about him before that time. Nathanael indicated he called Jesus a rabbi, meaning he recognized him as a teacher, but he also recognized Jesus as the King of Israel. This particular statement said in public was a statement of treason. Bethesda at the time was under the rule of Tiberius Caesar Augustus. Caesar was over the entire area. If you recall, in other text that we have studied, Herod was also aware that this king that was promised to the children of Israel would come to usurp the rule of the Romans. So he tried to have all of the young children killed. In that case, Jesus escaped to Egypt with his parents. We have a couple of examples where Jesus has shown people who he meets initially that he knows them. Number one, in Jeremiah 1:5, he says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." Later, if you recall his conversation with the Samaritan woman at the well, she was someone who did not associate with the children of Israel because Samaritans were part Jewish and part Gentile. But she knew the prophecy of the coming Messiah and the future king of Israel. When Jesus told her he knew of her past 5 husbands and that her current companion was not her husband, she also marveled and said, "You must be the Messiah." The wise men, we think about the conjunction of the Jupiter and Saturn last night. As I was driving through my neighborhood, I saw numerous people with their telescopes set up on the sidewalk, and they were observing to the southwest to see this Christmas star, as it was called. The wise men were called wise simply because they studied the astrological charts, and they knew that there was a promised king in the prophecy that was going to be born in Bethlehem. So they made their way to this place to meet this new king. They were not under the rule of the Romans, so it was not their problem that this king would usurp the Romans. Also, to indicate that they knew that this child who was the Messiah would be king, they brought him tributes. They brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. In this particular time, one of the things that you showed your respect to the new king as the new king was crowned would be to bring tribute to show that you owed loyalty to that particular king. As we go into the promises to Nathanael, Jesus answered and said unto him, "Because I said unto thee, I saw thee under the fig tree, believest thou? Thou shalt see greater images than these." And he said unto him, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, hereafter you shall see heaven again, and the angel of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." Jesus was trying to let Nathanael know that this was just a prelude to the things he would later witness. He would witness many miracles before Jesus returned to his Father. If we look in Genesis 28:10 and 15, we'll read about Jacob as he fled from his brother Esau at Bethel. As Jacob slept, he saw angels ascending and descending from heaven as if on a ladder. This is a reference to the statement from Nathanael. And that verse says, Genesis 28:10 through 15, says, "And Jacob went out from Bathsheba and went toward Haran. And he lighted upon a certain place and tarried there all night because the sun had set. He took the stones that were of place and put them as his pillows and lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven, and behold, the angels of the Lord ascending and descending upon it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land where thou liest, to thee I will give it to thee and thy seed. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in thee, in thy seed, shall all of the families of the earth be blessed. So, what do we have? We know that Jesus went looking for disciples. As the earlier lessons indicated, the first disciples went looking for John the Baptist. They were disciples of John the Baptist. These later became disciples of Jesus. Andrew initially brought Peter to see Jesus. We find that Jesus went to see James and John as they were fishing. He picked people who would be his messengers from among the crowd. Now, one of the things we notice about all of these people, none of them had the credentials that we today look for in people to carry the message. For instance, Vice President-elect Joe Biden is looking at people to head different agencies. In each case, he's looking for people who have experience in the area in which they will be assigned. Jesus did just the opposite. He looked for people who had little or no experience in the new assignment, but he would teach them what they should know to carry out his mission. Nathanael was initially questioned the truth and the veracity of the news, since Jesus was of Nazareth, not Bethlehem. Nazareth was the home of the descendants of Ishmael, and therefore nothing good could come out of Nazareth. Jesus promised Nathanael he would witness far greater things than Jesus being able to see in the past, but he would show him where he would be in the future. Our next week's lesson will be the wedding in Cana. It will feature Jesus' first miracle. As we close, let us go in prayer. We will thank Jesus, the Lord, for the gift of prevention to redeem and save us as we embark on the new year. Father, give us the wisdom to seek the Lord at all times. Guide us in such a way as to convince others of your strength and salvation. Help us to be ever mindful of your gift of salvation, and help us to be willing to share our experience with others so they too can see your goodness and mercy. Amen.